This episode is brought to you by Absolute Landscapes. Absolute Landscapes is a landscape maintenance company that focuses heavily on commercial property maintenance. Call today for information about the services we provide and how we can best help you. 803-427-5944.
The right side right here, it'll say a percent uploaded. We want that to stay as close to 99 as possible because that's a pretty good indication that we have a stable connection. And so it's jumping up right here. Yours should jump up. Like I said last time we talked, we want it to be close to the same thing, because if not, there could be a lag in the discussion.
Sounds good.
But no, yeah, I do like that, man, because I feel like there's never a stopping point when you're trying to improve. You know, it doesn't matter what you've accomplished or where you're at or what it seems like. There's no stopping point when you're trying to improve yourself. But like I said, if you, in that same breath, like, how do you have the philosophy of you improve yourself, but then you want to help other people? So where's the balance? Maybe, like, how do you find the point where you do feel like you can start using maybe what you've learned to help others benefit in whatever way? Because since there is no stopping point, and since you don't have a place that you can say, okay, I finally made it. Am I making sense here? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Cody, you're making absolute sense. But here's the thing. I think a lot of times we can beat our own selves up because we're so trying to get to the next level. We're trying to accomplish the next thing, but we don't realize that it's the baby steps. It's the little wins along the way. Think back even over your life, Cody, the last 10 years, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. And when you take that trip back down memory lane, think about how far you have came. And a lot of times we get to certain places in life, but we think that, oh my God, I'm not doing good in this area. My wife doesn't love me. My kids don't love me. But when you think back to where you were, your kids are 25 now. There was a time they were 10 and you couldn't afford to take them on a trip. But now you guys can travel. You guys can do certain things. There was a time in your marriage where you probably couldn't take your wife to a fancy restaurant. But now, once a month or twice a month, you guys can go to a 5-star restaurant. You don't have to worry about the credit card bill. You don't have to worry about. So I think sometimes, Cody, we are too hard on ourselves.
I see that. Yeah, I see that, and I understand that, and that's, man, that's a pretty powerful request to ask somebody to look over the past decade of their life, and see maybe where they were a decade ago and where they are now. Because as you're speaking, as you're saying this, I'm doing that in my mind. I'm going over the last decade of my life, and that is true. I do feel like I'm in a much different place than I was a decade ago. Maybe not where I want to be yet, but certainly a different place.
It all starts in our mind, Cody. It all starts in our mind. And so often we let this thing right here called our mind take us sometime to places that we don't need to go.
Right.
Listen, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I'm a minister of the gospel, but I'm also a husband. I'm a father. I'm an entrepreneur. I work a 9-to-5. I carry so many titles, but this mind sometimes it takes me places. It takes me places
right.
that I don't need to go sometime. Did you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what we have to do, Cody, and I love that you have this platform for people to come on and share. And I love that your listeners are going to get the goods here, because in this mind, we got to train it daily. See, the Apostle Paul, for those that know the Bible, he says, daily I wrestle with my flesh. Whatever that flesh is for you, that flesh for you can be a sexual desire. That flesh for you could be the fact that you just eating cheeseburgers every day. That flesh for you could be you just want to sleep to 10 o'clock every morning. That flesh for you could be you want to binge watch Netflix. And I'm not judging none of those things, but everyone has something in the flesh that they're dealing with, Brother Cody.
That's right. Yep.
He says, even when I want to do right, this is the Apostle Paul talking. He says, evil is staring me down daily. He says, even though I want to do right, he says, in my flesh, I want to do right. But often in my mind, once again, we're talking about the mind, I do wrong. Did you catch that, Brother Cody? In my flesh, I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good man. But in my mind, I can be at the gym and see a beautiful woman and I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest with you. But I think a lot of times we don't want to have those real conversations, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're a boy, whether you're a girl. I think when we can be true to who we really are, that's when true transformation, real transformation can take place in our life and we can be all things that God himself has called us to be.
I agree with that. There's a, I don't know if you know who Carl Jung is. He was a psychologist. He's got a philosophy about the shadow self. We all have a shadow inside of us. And, you brought up a good point that nobody wants to have this conversation. Nobody wants to admit this side of themselves, but how do you get rid of a shadow? The way you get rid of a shadow is you shine light to it. So we all have this shadow self. We all have this person that if we were to let these desires, like you're talking about, kind of lead the way and kind of push us in the direction that they want us to go, we have this person that we could be, our shadow self could take over. But nobody wants to have this conversation because it's like nobody wants to hear that there are ways they can improve, or that there's something they're doing wrong, or like you said, if we're sleeping in too much, or if we're not using our time wisely. Nobody wants to hear these kind of things. Because what we do want to hear is we want to hear that everything's okay and it's all right. We can take a day off. We can take it easy. Oh, that's normal. Everybody does that. It's okay. But like nobody wants to hear that these are things that we need to keep an eye on, because if not, they'll put us in a direction that we don't want to be in.
I'm 43 years old, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It took me probably these last 5 years, and this was pre-COVID, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To really start mastering myself.
Yep.
I don't want the person listening to this or watching this to get in your late 30s to start mastering yourself. I don't want the person that's watching this interview says, well, I got time. Yes, you got time. But if you can start today, something small. So the last 5 years, I went on like a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, good money, friends, associations. But then, I don't know about you, Cody, and to the listeners, but I hit a brick wall in my life during COVID, and I'm like, wait a minute. I got a good job. I can pay my bills. I have this beautiful home. I have a beautiful wife. It's still something missing. Did you catch that? You can have all the things on the outside and still have something missing.
Yep.
So for me, I was searching. And in that searching, I ended up doing things that I shouldn't have done. I've ended up giving myself to people that I shouldn't have gave myself to. But then once that thing clicked in my head, I said, okay, Donald, you got to make a change. And change is hard because we're so used to doing things a certain way. We saw mama do it. We saw father do it. We saw aunties do it. We saw uncles do it. We saw our grandparents do it. We were told, go to school, get a job, go to school, get a good job, get married, get a house, have a couple kids. We were told all of these things, Cody, but we were never shown a real blueprint how to live. I hope I'm helping somebody. So
Yeah.
once we get the blueprint, Cody, and once that light bulb go off in our heads, something then shifts. And once that shift takes place, you understand that you can no longer go back to business as usual.
So how can a person get to this shift? Because I feel like a lot of people, I think most people know, they have the self-awareness to know they're not doing something right. You know, something's not right in their life. If not making the right decisions, whatever it is, if they're not where they want to be business-wise, how can a person get to the point where they can make this shift? What can we, because we say there's not a blueprint, and I don't know, maybe it's impossible to find a blueprint, but like, how can we get to that place? How can we get to that point where we say, okay, this is the change we can make. This is the change we need to make? Because I feel like I kind of want to give the devil its due here, because I want to say that people, yes, sometimes we make bad decisions and we don't do the wise things that we need to do, but also I think a lot of times people are lost. Like, I think people are just lost with no direction. And, you know, they'll do whatever they can do to fill in that void, whether it's whatever it is, you know, drugs, alcohol, sexual desires, whatever it is. And people are just, and I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just saying that people are lost. And I think that's something that we really need to address, because if people had this fulfillment, wherever this comes from, maybe that would kind of limit some of these issues. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Cody, that's a great question. And we're going to have people listening to this podcast from all over the world, different walks of life, different races, different religious beliefs. I'm going to tell you my truth.
Mm-hmm.
My truth is this, because you invited me on the show,
mm-hmm.
the Pure Wisdom Podcast, right?
Yes, sir.
My truth is, number one, and I have a 5-step formula that I am releasing a blueprint very soon through our ministry, D. Lee Ministries. Please find us. Look us up, www.dleaministries.com. Here's what I want to tell that person. We're not going to get into all 5 steps, but I'm going to give you one step.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you the very first step, Cody. I think this is the most important step of the 5 steps. You got to get a hold of yourself. You got to get a hold of yourself. I don't care if you have been on a 3-day spree of cocaine. I don't care if you have just slept with 5 different men or 5 different women in the last 3 days. I don't care if you are 200 pounds overweight. I don't care if you are not speaking to your spouse right now. I don't care if you guys are sleeping in separate rooms right now. I don't care if your kids don't talk to you. I don't care if you got broken relationships. The first step is you got to get a hold of you. So often we point the finger. This happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. I wouldn't be this way if they loved me. Let me share something with you. I'm sorry all of that happened. And I'm not minimizing anything that happened in your life, because bad things do happen. But the first thing you got to do, I don't know when this is going to be aired, but I'm talking to somebody in March of 2023. You got to get a hold of you. Until you get a hold of you, nothing will ever change. I don't care how many courses you take. I don't care how many relationships you jump in. I don't care how many weight loss programs you get into. Until you get a hold of yourself, Cody, this is the simplest way I can break it down. Nothing is going to change.
So what I hear there is I hear accountability.
Mm.
People need to take accountability. And I heard a quote one time, and I wish I knew who said this. I don't know who said it, unfortunately, but it said that who you are and what happens to you in your life is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
That's a great quote. And I don't know who said it either, but that is so true.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I grew up in a house, 2-parent home, where, first of all, my parents were teenage parents, high school dropouts. Father was a drug addict from a very early age. Okay? He was 19. My mom was 15. I believe he started using hard drugs in his early 20s. I seen a lot of stuff in my house growing up, 18 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I left home at 18 on the nose. You hear me? I turned 18 in January. I left home in April. I'm going to say something. A lot of stuff happened and I saw a lot of stuff, a lot of trauma. I endured a lot of stuff. But until Donald Jr. took accountability and got a hold of myself, I had to release my father. I had to release my mother. I had to release those people who I thought loved me the way they said they loved me. Until I took accountability, nothing changed. I lost my mother almost 2 years ago due to COVID. My father's still living. We have a decent relationship now. It's a work in progress. But he knows what he did. He knows what I saw. But guess what? I had to release all of that and start my own healing process. And let me share something with you, Cody, and to your listeners. That wasn't an easy process. That was a journey all by itself. And a lot of times people think, well, this happened and I don't love them anymore. And look, I get it. I'm not excusing what happened. But you got to look at yourself in the mirror and figure out a way to move. Because if you don't move, you're going to be stuck. And if you're stuck, you're not moving. I need to write that down. If you're stuck, you're not moving.
Right.
In order to move, you got to learn to let go.
Well, and you have to distance yourself from what I call toxic people, like these toxic situations, and sometimes that's hard to do, especially if it's family or friends or somebody that you feel like you should be close to. But the problem is that you have to distance yourself from this. You have to distance yourself from these kind of interactions, from these kind of people, because just because somebody is your family member or close to you or should be close to you does not mean that that person is good for you. It does not mean that. I mean, I'm all for, having a strong bond with friends and family. I like people to share relationships and have relationships, but sometimes, and this doesn't apply to everybody, obviously, but sometimes the people that you need to distance yourself from are the ones who seem closest to you. If you are around people who are not happy for your accomplishments, if you're around people who are influencing you in a negative direction, if you're around people who are trying to belittle you for everything and make you feel insignificant because they themselves are damaged and insecure, those are not good people to be around. And unfortunately, a lot of people do fit that category, and then that brings us back to what you're saying here, which is kind of it's almost like you have to pull yourself out of that situation. But I don't know, man. I just feel like so many people are lost in that situation. They just don't know. I mean, especially like we're talking about, some people come from generations of this, you know, like let's say something like drug abuse or poverty or, you know, a sexual desire to where it breaks a household up. I mean, these are difficult things. And when you're in that situation, I think it's kind of hard to see a way out, if that makes sense.
It makes
but I mean, I'm just kind of speculating here because there's a lot of speculation, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud too.
It makes a lot of sense. I'll say this part. It's twofold. I love how you said that, and I'm all for distancing yourself. But here's the reality of it, though, Cody. And to the listeners, you didn't choose your family.
Right.
You didn't choose them. I'm not saying you got to be around them, you got to tolerate them, but you didn't choose them. And that's the hard part. And that's for somebody. You didn't choose that family. So I need for you to release that burden. Your grandfather was an alcoholic. Your mother slept around. Your uncles did this. I need you to release that because you didn't choose your family. The second thing, I want to go back to the Bible. God told Abraham, before he was Abraham, he was Abram at the time. He says, leave your father's household in Genesis chapter 12 for the Bible readers. He says, and go to the land that I have prepared for you. Just leave. And I know in 2023, some people are saying, well, I just want to leave Texas. I just want to leave California. I just want to leave South Carolina. It's not saying that in the natural. Sometimes you got to leave in the mental.
Mm-hmm.
See, if you leave in the mental, the natural will follow. Because what happens, Cody, is once you start, once again, getting a hold of yourself, and once you start improving, and once you start doing the things, excuse me for saying this, it's almost like those people who had a hold on you or had a handle on you, they somehow shake themselves off.
Yep.
They somehow remove themselves out of your life because what happens is what's on you, they can't stand it because it irks them. You catch what I'm saying? Because they're like, oh my God, he's talking that hope stuff again. He's talking, let's be empowered again. Oh, he's going to another conference or she's doing this. Once you start getting a hold of yourself, those things are easy to deal with because people see you in a different light. And here's what else happens. You allow the right people. Remember, you didn't choose your family.
Yep.
You didn't choose mama, daddy, sister, brother, auntie, uncle. I'm just talking to you. I'm just a country boy from Danville, Virginia, Cody, okay? You didn't choose them. I didn't choose mommy, papa. I didn't choose them, and I love them. Mm-hmm. But now at 43, I can choose who's in my life. That's good. I can choose who I want to associate with because association brings elevation. Association brings elevation. Your net worth will equal your net worth. Let me tell you, there was a time in my life I didn't even know a multi-millionaire personally, right? And I'm not making this about money, but I'm going to use this illustration. But now I can go in my phone right now, Cody. I have 2 multi-millionaires in my phone. I don't have to go through their assistants. I don't have to go through this person to call them. I can call on 2 multi-millionaires at any time to give me advice, to give me wisdom. I'm not saying I'm asking them for money, but what I'm saying is because of my desire to elevate, now my association has changed. So now I got 2 multimillionaires in my phone. My goal by the end of this year, Cody, is to have 5 multimillionaires in my phone and 1 billionaire in my phone. That is my goal by the end of the year because I am putting myself in circles. I am associating with the right people. I am doing the work. I'm not blaming anybody. Don't get me wrong. Do I have pity parties? Yes, everybody have pity parties. But I'm choosing to get a hold of myself, to do the work. I'm choosing to associate with people that's going places. I'm associating with people that have vision. I'm choosing to do the things that I know that God has called me to do. And call me by the end of the year, and I'm going to tell you, Cody, I got 5 multimillionaires and 1 billionaire in my phone. I want to be able to associate with those type of people.
Yeah. Yeah, because you learn from people like that. You know, we've all heard that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So if you put yourself in a network of people like that, you can learn from those people. And I love going into a place or a room or a particular setting with people who I feel like are more successful than me, whether it's financial or you know, self-awareness wise or spiritually or whatever it is. I like being around people who are more successful than me because I know that I can learn from those people. I know there's something there that I can almost like an example to follow almost.
Can I say something about that though?
Mm-hmm.
Being in those rooms, Cody, are very uncomfortable. Can we be very transparent?
Exactly. Yeah, they are.
If you're comfortable being around multimillionaires and you barely seen $10,000 at one time,
yep.
I'm not talking about the limelight. I'm talking about really growing and being around people. It's an uncomfortable thing, Cody.
Yep.
But in that place is where growth really is going to happen.
Yeah, it is. And it is uncomfortable but I think the uncomfortable part, the uncomfort of it, you can't grow in comfort. You can't grow in a comfort zone. You have to get yourself out of your comfort zone to grow. So I think just being uncomfortable is just part of it. I mean, anything that you do that has significant value is going to be uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. If you stay comfortable, if you stay in the same place, stay around the same group of people, you know, a year from now, 5 years from now, you're going to be in the same place. You're not going to be anywhere different. I want to go back to what you said about removing people from your life. You know, so we all know that rotten fruit falls by itself, right?
Oh God.
You don't have to go out and take rotten fruit. Sometimes you might have to prune dead wood, but rotten fruit falls by itself. But something that's important that I've kind of taken into account with this kind of thing is when people can't touch who you're becoming, they try to remind you who you used to be. So you got these people that you're trying to distance yourself from, and whether it's family, friends, whatever, and just because they're not making the improvements that you're making to your life, they want to make you feel like either one, that you're wrong for doing it, or that you're not capable of doing it, or that you're not worthy of, or something along those lines, because people don't want to see you doing better for yourself, because that puts a light on the fact that they're not doing the same thing for themselves. And that basically brings to reality that they're not making the improvements they could make. And they have all these excuses, whatever it is, you know, parents, drug addicts, you know, no financial education, whatever it is. But when they see you doing something and you're improving yourself, it shines a light on the fact that they're not doing the same thing for themselves. And I just wanted to make that point before we moved on from that, because a lot of times that does come from your inner circle. A lot of times that kind of negativity does come from the people who are closest to you. You know,
let me share this with you. So I read a book, or I listened to a book on Audible called The 4 Agreements a couple of weeks ago, right?
Oh, I've read that book. I love that book. Yep.
I'm only going to touch on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle with this one, Cody. Oh,
Yeah.
God. Oh, God. I'm going to tell you the agreement I struggle with the most.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I'm going to share the agreement, but I struggle with it. But I also know I'm growing in that.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. You can struggle with something and still grow in an area all at once. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Guess what that agreement is, Cody? Don't take anything personal. Don't take anything personal. Somebody's watching this podcast and saying, where did Cody find this brother from? Somebody that I know is going to be like, why is Don on a podcast with this white guy? I'm just being transparent.
Right. Yeah.
You can't take it personally. I can't take it personally. Here's the thing. We're all going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, how bad do you want to get there? If I told you, Cody, let's meet in Rock Hill, let's meet at the Walmart on Dave Lyle, and we're going to drive to Houston, Texas. You and I both know that's going to be about an 18-hour drive from where we sit at. Or we can go right up the road 30 minutes to Charlotte Airport and purchase a ticket on American Airlines. I'm not endorsing anybody. We can spend about $300 and we can get to the Houston in less than 2 hours.
Yep.
Which road do we want to take? Cody, I'm at a place in my life, I ain't driving 18 hours no more. I hope you're there too. Cody, listen, I'm at a place in my life, we're going to get up the road, we're going to go to Charlotte, we're going to buy the plane ticket, and we're going to get to Houston in 2 hours. My point is, you cannot take anything personal from those people who still try to remind you of your past. Guess what? We all got a past. We all got a past. Even those people who are reminding you, here's what I love about those people. They often forget that you got the receipts on them too. But here is how you know you're mature. I'm going to give your listeners a free nugget here. When you're mature is when you don't throw back on them what they're throwing on you.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I'm glad you bring that up because that reminds me of something. This is probably my 9th year in business. I started my business right before I turned 21. I started my business. So this is about the 9th year. And I always said, people didn't believe in me. I was going to do this thing, whatever. I said, that's fine. One day I'm going to come back and I'm going to rub it in their faces. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show people. And it was weird because, I felt like when I became successful was when that mindset shifted, was when I no longer said, I'm going to brag about it and rub it in these people's faces. The mindset shifted because when I became successful, or when I felt like I was successful, was when I dropped that mentality. When I said, you know what, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't feel the need to do that. I probably had the same, $10 in the bank account that I had when I first had the mindset of I'm going to show everybody and come back and prove everybody wrong. So it wasn't about money. I had the same amount of money, but that mindset shifted. I said, you know what, I don't feel the need to do that. So that's when I felt like internally I was successful. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things I still got to work on. There's a lot of places I still want to be, whatever. But that was a significant shift. And I said that's when I knew I was doing the right thing.
So I'm a minister. I'm also a speaker. I'm a coach. I'm a certified John Maxwell speaker, coach, trainer. I'm an independent minister. Our ministry, D-Lee Ministries. I have a consulting business called Kingdom Empowerment Consulting Group, where we speak, we coach, we train, we do workshops. So this last weekend, Cody, a door was open for me to speak in front of several hundred people. A door was open for me to speak in front of several hundred people. And there were people in that audience who overlooked me at times. Does that make sense?
I got you.
There were people in that audience that wouldn't return my call, that wouldn't give me a chance on their platform. But God allowed me to get on a stage and present in front of them. And what God showed me was when it's your time, and I'm talking to somebody that's watching this, it's your time. It doesn't matter who didn't allow you. It doesn't matter who didn't let you in their club. It doesn't matter what resources you don't have. Cody, when it's your time, it's your time. And when you are ready, God will then put you in a room to do extraordinary things. But he knows I can't put you there if you're going to walk in there with your chest stuck up.
Right.
If you're going to walk in and say, Superman, it's me. He can't do that if you are not ready. So let me share this with you. So Saturday morning, now I've worked on this speech. I've crafted my speech because I'm a speaker. But I've been speaking all my life, right? I'm 43. I mean, I've always been told I had a gift to gab, whatever. Right. Saturday morning, I get out of my bed. I get up. And my wife goes, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Honey, I don't feel qualified." Now, this is less than 2 hours before I'm supposed to be on the stage. I says, "Honey, out of the 4 speakers, I am the least educated. I am the least qualified." Going back to something I said earlier, you had to get a hold of yourself, right? And she looked over at me as I was getting out of bed and she says, "Donald, you have been prepared for this a long time ago."
Exactly.
I want to tell somebody, you have been prepared for what you're about to do a long time ago. You didn't just wake up and say, "I want to start a podcast." You didn't just wake up and say, "I want to be a good mother." You didn't just wake up and say, "I want to be a good father." You didn't just wake up and say, "I want to be that business owner." You were being prepared a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer that, we might try to get things in life. We want things in life, but I'm a firm believer that you yourself have to be prepared before you can get these things in life. Because if, and I'm not asking you, I'm just kind of saying, just ask yourself. You mentioned earlier that you made some decisions in the past decade of your life. You went through a time where you were not making some decisions, the right decisions or whatever. Imagine if you had that opportunity that you had right now to speak, that you had this weekend. Imagine if you were given that opportunity during that time period. What really would have happened? So you had to be prepared for this, and I'm a big believer in that. I do feel like we are prepared for things that maybe we don't get those things then. Maybe we don't get them immediately, but it's a process. We are being prepared for that to one day get that.
So it's funny you said that, Cody, and my mind went back 10 years. I would have stunk the place up. Not about talents or gift, but I would have stunk the place up. I'm ready to help somebody with my character, with my integrity. I probably would have performed well, but I would have stunk the place up because I wasn't ready for what was at hand. Did you catch what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you allowed me to come on the show. I already told you beforehand, I'm a minister. I'm a Bible person. Before David was anointed to be the king, David was in the field tending to sheep. David was in the field working. David was in the field killing lions and bears, protecting the flock, so to say.
Right.
Okay. I'm giving somebody the high level version. So the prophet came to town and says, "I need to look for the next king." And I was told the next king is at your house, Jesse. And what did Jesse do? For the Bible scholars, Jesse lined up all of his handsome, tall sons first. The ones that he thought on the outside was qualified. And the prophet Samuel says, "No, it's none of them." And Jesse, like, "What do you mean? Don't you see him? He's muscular. He's tall. He's full of stature. Don't you see them? And the prophet said, no, it's none of them. He says, do you got another son? And I remember the passage, Jesse says, yeah, it's David in the back. And I'm just in my mind thinking about how he said that. He says, oh, yeah, we do got one more. It's David. The prophet said, we will not sit down until David comes. So David came, and immediately they saw that he was the chosen king. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's the lesson in that. Many people, Cody, are looking at the outside of people. They're looking at the fact they look good, they smell good, they dress well, they speak well, they got the house, they got the car, they got the followers. People are looking at the outside. But as we're closing, I don't know how much more time we got, but I know we're winding down. God is looking at the heart. See, God can do more with a person with a sincere heart than a person that got it all together. I need somebody that's watching or listening to understand where you are right now is not your future. Where you are right now is not your final destination, but you need to check your heart.
Yep. So something I wanted to ask you, this is about purpose. This is about, trying to find your purpose. Because I've had a lot of people ask me this, and I think I don't think in my experience I've ever had a woman ask me this, but it's mostly been men who have kind of talked about their purpose. How do I find my purpose? How can I find whatever my purpose is on this earth? And I'm just curious to get your thoughts on that. What do you think it is? How can a person find, their purpose or their gift, whatever they have to offer this world? I mean, how would you say a person can find that about themselves?
I got to credit. His name is Dr. Darius Daniels. I'm going to credit him for this. He has a book called Purpose is Calling.
Okay.
He says in the book, and I'm paraphrasing it, your purpose is that thing that irritates you the most. Your purpose is that thing that you see in the world. You see a problem in the world.
Yep.
You see a problem on your job. You see a problem in your family. You see a problem in your community. That's your purpose. And then we get so aggravated at times, Cody, because we're doing everything else other than working in our purpose. And here's what I find out. Once we work on our purpose, that's when things can be released into our life. So going back to the initial question, Dr. Darius Daniels, I'm giving him credit. You got to get the book, Your Purpose is Calling. And he says, you were created to solve a problem in the earth. And once you find out that problem in the earth, your purpose will be attached to that problem in the earth.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty much the same. Like, if somebody were to ask me that question, that's probably the way I would answer it. Because what I tell people, the way I tell people, man, is when it comes to finding your purpose, whatever it is that you're here to do, is probably going to scare you to do it. And it's probably going to be something that you don't really want to do. I mean, we're not talking about, I want to be a Major League Baseball player, and that might be your thing, and that's fine. But for a lot of people, that's something that's fun. It's fun to do that. This is probably going to be something, at least initially, that's going to scare you. That's not going to be, it might not seem like it's fun at first. Like you said, you might feel like what you're being called to do is bigger than the person who's being called to do it. But if that's your purpose, then you grow into that purpose. And I try to tell people too, do the thing that you're afraid of. Do the thing that scares you. Because if you do the thing that scares you, first of all, you prove to yourself that you're capable of doing that. Secondly, you learn that after you do it, after you accomplish it, it's not as bad as you thought it was to begin with. I mean, if you can do the things that you're afraid of, if you do the things that scare you, I can't think of really any other better way to build self-confidence than that, because you're proving to yourself that you can overcome these things. But
I love it. I love how you say it. It's the thing that's, number one, uncomfortable.
Yep.
But it's also the thing that you do it without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
You do it. Listen, when I go in a room to do an interview, I can just do an interview, Cody.
Yep.
And that's the thing I know I can do. I also host a show. It's called After Sunday. We stream it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube on the Social Maximus station. It's called After Sunday. So I bring on people every week, and I got to get you on the schedule, Cody, here in a few weeks. I bring on people that are leaders in their industry. And when I interview them, it's never hard because, number one, that's what I do. But number two, that's what they do. You catch what I'm saying? So we complicate things because we do things outside of our purpose. Somebody need to cut me a check for that. We complicate stuff, Cody, because we do stuff out of the realm of our purpose. Case in point, my wife is an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I be trying to figure the money out in our house? Not saying I don't control the money or look up money, but my wife is the accountant. She went to school for that. Why should I be trying to balance the business checkbook, the ministry checkbook, the personal checkbook? That's not my lane. Then she can tell me you got XYZ to play with or to utilize, but why should I be trying to put up a spreadsheet and figure out these numbers when that's not my lane? My lane is get in the car, get on the plane, get on the stage, and speak.
No, I got you. I'm with you on that. So let me ask you about leadership before we close. And I want to give you time too to promote your business and your company, your ministry, or whatever you want to promote. But about leadership, we were talking before we started this thing. You mentioned about leadership, and we were talking about, you kind of have to. It's almost like to lead people, you have to kind of get yourself in order first. And if there was something you could say to a person who's in a leadership role, who is maybe having a hard time, whether it's influencing people or leading people or whatever it is, I mean, what do you think a person can do to improve their skills as far as leadership goes? Because I think that's one thing that, like, definitely for me, starting out, leading people and starting to hire people and try to influence people. I think for me, the hardest lesson was, and I know we've touched on this already, was that self-awareness. You have to understand how you come across to another person. What I might be saying something that I think is pretty straightforward and just kind of to the point, but this person might be taking it as me being overly assertive or that I don't necessarily, a lack of empathy or something along those lines. So to me, it was almost like I had to be aware of how I was coming across, because I do kind of have a sort of a personality, but I think it could be taken the wrong way in ways that I don't intend it if I'm not careful.
So leadership is all about influence. John Maxwell says that, which is the number one sought after leader in the world, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I went through his program last year, and I've followed John Maxwell for many, many years, but I went through his program last year, and it did something to me. It just basically changed my life. And I'm grateful to be a certified John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer. But I'll add that leadership must include, and you answered your question, but I'm going to just throw it out there. You got to have compassion to be a leader. See, so many people, and don't get me wrong. I'm talking to the managers, I'm talking to supervisors, I'm talking to anyone in corporate America. I get it. You got numbers to be made, you got a quota. I understand all of that. But you got to have compassion first.
Right.
And compassion starts with you. You got to take it. You got to take inventory of yourself, which we've already touched on. And here's the thing. A leader is bigger than a title, Cody. I don't care if you're the manager. I don't care if you are the CEO. If you don't have any empathy for people, you're not a leader. True empathy. I'm not talking about you got to, coddle people. I'm not saying you got to give them their way, but you got to have empathy.
Right.
You got to have empathy. So I'll share this story with you before I, as I'm wrapping up. I had a manager in the height of COVID. I don't care what side of the spectrum you vote on, but I had a manager in the height of COVID say repeatedly, "Oh, COVID is just a flu. COVID is just it's like a common cold. You get it and you're going to go away." I don't know why people are making a big deal about it. In the height of COVID, she was saying this. At the same time, Cody, my whole family caught COVID in 2021. The end of like in the height of COVID, late February 2021, over into March 2021. My mother had to go to the hospital. My father had to go to the hospital. My father spent about 10 days in the hospital. My mother spent 30 days in the hospital, but my mother didn't make it home. My mother died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That manager kept saying how they're making a big deal about COVID and, it's just like a common cold. It's just a flu. But my mother died.
Right.
I watched them intubate my mother. I watched my mother battle. So we got to be empathetic for people before we make statements.
Right.
Broad statements. Anyway, once again, I don't care if you believe in the vaccination or not believe in the vaccination. I watched my mother die of COVID. I don't care if you're Republican, Democratic, black, white, brown, Latino, whatever. My mother died from COVID. So don't tell me COVID is just a flu. You catch what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you. Yep. Yeah, it's lack of perspective. These people, and I think by definition, a leader is a person who should be able to put themselves in your shoes or whoever it is they're leading shoes. But, it sounds like this individual that you're talking about, maybe she was unable to do that, or it just didn't cross her mind that other people have different experiences, maybe different to what she experienced,
I'll say this, and I'm going to close on this one before I get to the other thing. Because me and you are two different people. You
right.
are a white man in America. I'm a black man in America. This is for another time, another show. But we have two different experiences in America.
Yep.
That's no excuse of the experiences, but me and you, Cody, we walk two different paths.
Yeah, we can.
We walk two different paths. But that doesn't change who we are. Does that make sense? We still got to be empathetic for one another. I still have to be empathetic for you as my brother. You still have to be empathetic for me as your brother. We're still human, right?
Yep.
Regardless of what tax brackets we're in, we still have to walk together in this thing called life. You got to bring me back later this year because I want to touch on this because we get so high and mighty and forget that we all are just dust.
Yeah. Yeah, all this is temporary. This is temporary. This body is temporary. This experience is temporary. These thoughts, these emotions, these feelings, all this is really I know we're trying to close. I don't really want to get too much into this, but all this is a vehicle. You know, it's the thing that resides inside. Some people call it a spirit. Some people call it a soul. Some people say consciousness itself. It's the thing inside of us that is who we are. And, you know, you hear people say things like, we're all one and we're all from the same divine entity. You know, we're all the same. We're all, but all this body, this life, you know, the car you drive, the experience, the whatever, all that is a temporary thing. That's not who you are. And if you feel like that's who you are, then maybe you got a lot of work to do, because that's very far away from who you actually are. Mr. Lee, before we close out, do you want to do a promotion for your business or your ministry or anything that you have going on that you kind of want to, you know, put a website or a phone number or anything?
Absolutely. First of all, Cody, I want to say thank you to you and the Pure Wisdom Podcast for allowing myself, Donald Lee. I'm the president and founder of DLEA Ministries. We are a ministry of hope. We are a ministry of power, a ministry of truth. You can find us on all social media platforms. Go to my website, check us out at www.dleaministries.com. We talked a lot about growth, and I'll close with this. I am doing an exclusive mastermind that is put on by John Maxwell, titled The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. We're going to start that class on Saturday, March the 25th. We're going to meet for 5 weeks. I want a 5-week commitment from you. We're going to meet from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., 90 minutes of your time. Registration deadline is Monday, March the 20th. Text me personally. I'll call you back. I'll text you back. I'm going to put my phone number out. I don't want any weirdos calling me or texting me, because I will block you. But it's 803-417-1262. That's 803-417-1262. And just text me the word growth. Once you text me that word growth, I myself, not my assistant, not my virtual person, not nobody overseas, I personally will call you back, share some insights with you, and I'll send you the link to register. It's a one-time cost of $199, and that'll cover all 5 weeks.
Now, is this something, this 5-week program, is this virtual or in person, or?
Thank you for asking. It is virtual. We're going to do it via Zoom, obviously.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Lee, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the wisdom that you've been able to share with us today. And yeah, I'll definitely have you back on, man. I've been having a lot going on here lately, and so it might be a little bit, but yeah, we'll definitely, you know, I feel like there's a bunch of topics we can talk about that we didn't get into today, just you know, time permitting type thing. So I'm going to close this out really quick. Hang out for just a second. I want to make sure this upload completes, and I'll explain to you how that works. But I do appreciate your time, and I appreciate you coming on, and look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.